All right. Seems that we are live. Let's try to get this up and rolling. I was kind of curious on Twitter whether or not comments there would come through or not to this one because I'm trying to multicast, and I see myself on Twitter and I'm watching my own self do it. It's pretty creepy. So, well, welcome everybody. I'm gonna wait a little bit, see some people stream in, but really appreciate everybody joining me tonight for this live cast. Had been doing a lot of portfolio reviews on ADP list, which actually I guess that's a pretty good page to have up first there. Just as where this all came about. So there we go. Don't look professional there. So had been having a lot of sessions recently for portfolio reviews on ADP list, and then saw that you could just have these group sessions, and I thought, why not do it communally? Like have like a live session with us, hopefully get a few folks involved, come onto the show and be willing to, put their portfolio up for review and do it together. So even if people who don't submit it, if they don't get it live, at very least they can benefit from some of the same comments and some of the reviews, some of the thinking that goes behind what makes a good portfolio. And it's a bit of a preamble. Honestly, is one of the one of the other things I say. And unfortunately, anyone here has been on a mentorship session with me is probably going to listen to some of this and like, oh, he says the same thing all the time. I'll take it as consistency. I believe that when you're getting your portfolio reviewed, it's good to get it done by 3 to 5 people if you can, because ultimately it's at some point there's going to be some personal bias in it. There's going to be preference, right? And it's the same type of preference that's going to exist if you submit it to a job, anything else, right? Like that will always exist, but just you will want to get a few opinions on it. Don't ever take something that someone says as absolute gospel. But when you listen to a few people, as long as they're all coming at it from an honest, good place, you're going to find a couple through lines. There's going to be a couple points inside of what everyone says in the portfolio that you're able to pull it together and then make your best portfolio. Right. So, with that said, one of the caveats I really like to put up front is I'm not suggesting that I am an absolute expert at this. I am not suggesting that my way is the only way to do this, or you should take my word as gospel. I would like you to critique and think hard about what I'm saying and, come at it honestly. But I am coming from a place I really would like to help and try to improve it. And with my years of experience, like this is what I'm seeing. So if you're watching this and you do have a portfolio you'd like me to review, just pop it into the comments. I'm going to try to keep active on it. So I'm multicasting, trying to get across as many on YouTube, Twitch, and X. I believe all comments do come in. I'll try to monitor them as best I can. But if you have a portfolio you'd like to have reviewed and you don't mind it being in the public with the rest of us, which end of the day, the more like eyes on it, the better, right? If you're too embarrassed for other designers to see it, it may not be ready for prime time anyways. I wanted to see, I just want to make sure on X that I am seeing those comments stream in if they do come. Now, if at any point, anyone who was watching this, if you would like a one-on-one session, I do try to be active on the platform. So I'd love to speak with you, have a one-on-one 30-minute session. Always free, always will be free. I'm not selling anything inside of this session. Hey, VJ, wonderful to see you, man. It's great to see you again. First comment in there. Yeah, that's right. On this platform, I can call up comments. I love it. I'm such a dork. It's like I can't help but having a good time. But yeah, if you want to grab a time with me, more than happy to speak with anybody. Again, I'm not selling anything. My sessions are free. They always will be free. I'm doing this because I want to legitimately give back to the community. So feel free. Go to my ADP list. Just search for Trevor Alexander and would be more than happy to grab a session with you to review your portfolio a bit more in depth and more one-on-one. But with that being said, I did receive, actually, tell you what, I'd found one thing before we get into it, and I wanted to share this with the group and for the video. So what I want to show is that it is possible. There are jobs out there. One of the things, and again, if you've been a mentee with me, you'll know that one of my favorite things to say is that there's two dualities, right? There's two kind of realities here. One is how awful the market is, and then what we are presenting and what our portfolio is. What I mean to say by that is the market sucks. Just is what it is. It's really hard out there right now, right? And it's going to take some time to get some. It might take. I hope it doesn't. I hope the next job you apply for, boom, first application, first job, you're in through the door. I hope that for you, absolutely. But there's a good chance you're going to have to go through the grindhouse for a bit, right? I want to make sure that you guys don't attach your self-worth to those rejections. It might take 20, it might take 50, it might take 100. Like we are seeing those kind of numbers as far as applications. I don't want you to attach your self-worth to that, right? Because at this point, it's just there's 100 applications. Like, what are you supposed to do, right? Now, while that's true, that doesn't put us off the hook. We have to make our portfolios better. We want to have the best possible chance of getting a job. So while the market's bad, and that's, big bad boogeyman to be easy, nice just to say, oh, it's just a bad market. That's fine. That's a reality. But you got to make your portfolio as good as possible. 100%. The good news that I wanted to share, like I came across this and I thought it'd be kind of a appropriate way to start off the evening together, was in the Reddit post from UX Design, finally found a new job, and it's a great position. I wanted to share some joy in the group. After almost 1 year of search while employed full-time, I finally landed a new UX position. It's one of the places I dreamed of for a long time, and I sent all my energies to be there. I've iterated my CV and portfolio dozens of times, constantly asking for feedback and looking around for good references. With a bit of luck, I did it. Whoa. So here's the data, and here's the thing that I wanted to show. This person who finally got in at the place they wanted to applied 215 times. 215 times. I don't know that's going to be your experience, but just buckle up. And when you get a rejection, it's just one on the path. It's one on the path, and keep going, right? So I really want you to focus on that. So they had 20 recruiters, 23 first-round interviews, 14 6 design challenges, and finally one accepted, right? So it's possible. It's getting better. And more than anything, too, is just I feel like the market's going to get better, right? So I saw a really great piece of news where a task management startup, like literally a to-do list application, raised like 13 million. And in my eyes, it's like, hey, we're back. We're doing it. The startup ecosystem is growing. We peeled. So I think things are better, like going to get better. The interest rates are starting to lower. AI's kind of put its way through. I think we've reached about as many layoffs, hopefully, as possible. That might be a bit hopeful, but that's where I choose to kind of put my energy. So I think it's going to get better. Stay with it. Stick with tenacity. Keep going forward. And it can happen. Don't take each rejection personally. Take it as an opportunity to get better and move on to the next. Now, with that in mind, I did receive a review from a site to review from somebody participating today. I hope they're able to show up, Abel. If you did, thank you very much. I really appreciate you putting it live for the group to review. And I thought it'd be a really good place to start. So what to think about this design? So the first thing, and you'll notice in a lot of ways, I'll try to get some larger themes, but I'm going to also hit on the tiny stuff. The thing about tiny detail is that on its own, it's not going to cost you, right? It's not as if like one tiny thing and all of a sudden the whole thing blows up. Like, forget it. You'll never get a job. But if you have enough small little things, it starts to stack on top of each other, right? Where it just becomes this weight where there's enough things that are not great or not well with the site that it causes someone to pause, like that this person isn't it. And especially in a world when they're looking at like 50 of these. So you want to strive for perfection. So the first thing I would say is, right off the bat, so we have it's kind of from myself, and again, comes down to opinion. That total caveat, but now we have to kind of get into it, right? All right, so firstly is this is not secure. So the SSL is throwing an error, right? Not a big deal. Actually, sorry, I think with the branding, we can't see it. Yeah, but at the SSL, it's not, the HTTPS isn't working. So on Chrome, it's showing me not secure. So you want to make sure that, you get your SSL certificate on your portfolio site so it looks secure. They're not going to be worried. I'd be a bit worried about the space because somebody arrives at our website. What are we trying to tell them? It's like, hey, I'm a designer. I'm good at design. Here's some examples. Now come check out some projects or some of my design thinking. Contact me, right? We are designers. We are empathetic. We know who's coming here and we know how to problem solve, right? The purpose of the site is to get hired and to showcase the fact that we can design, convince somebody of that truth. The amount of space here, and it can work, you know what I mean? But just it's almost like I want to start to see more projects rise to the top. And so, and now right off the bat, the amount of space between like for this header menu, it's a stylistic choice. It can work, but concerns me a bit, right? Same with the amount of spacing between like the padding within this gray box. And then the fact that if you look at this high word here, it's at the top of this square. It's at the top and then not at the bottom. So it's like top aligned as opposed to being center aligned and something that everything else that is kind of centered around. So there's no center alignment with this first photo and this first text. So just the very first thing we see is like misalignment, right? So kind of like a lack of balance. The last part is just like the amount of text. It's a pretty small sentence, but like it's on 4 lines that I have to read through. And the main thing, if you think about your, you know, what am I going to see first, second, and third? The first thing I see is like the photo is pretty nice. Good to see a friendly face. And then hi, and then everyone. So face, hi, everyone. Okay, like that's not telling me the story about what we're trying to do here, right? As opposed to, dedicated UX designer with a focus on accessibility, inclusive design. My passion lies in creating designs that benefit everyone. Okay. Now, I don't want to focus again like on the minutia of it, but it's more of like a grandiose point that hopefully will kind of bleed out into everything else. So I don't mind dedicated. People like to see dedication. That's a pretty decent word. So dedicated UX designer. Okay. So with a focus on accessibility, inclusive design. Now, that's a very noble aim, 100%. And I really wish that like the way that current projects are being built was that was like a number one. Look, everybody needs to be able to view this site for sure. But in real truth, if you know, let's say X comes to you and like, hey, look, we want you to join like a new design division. You know, they may not be accessibility, inclusive design first, right? So and then my passion lies with things that everyone. The thing that if that was the case, if X came to you and said, "Hey, look, we got like a 6-figure contract. We want you to join our team and take us to a brand new place," would you say, "No, wait a minute"? Like, how important is accessibility the most important thing for you? Is it number one? Because if it isn't, I'm not going to work for you. You know, if Meta shows up and that was the line, like, "Hey, is inclusivity and accessibility the most number one thing?" Would you not take the Meta design job? You can. If you want to draw that line in the sand, that's a very noble cause. I could applaud that. But if we are in a place where we want to get a job, that might not be the first foot forward, right? Because, you know, in a time, especially in this current market, when everything is contracting, you know, teams of 20 are going down to teams of 5. Is, you know, is accessibility inclusivity going to be like the first number one thing that people are hiring for, as opposed to somebody who says, I'm looking to help businesses achieve their goals? That doesn't, to be clear, like it doesn't mean therefore it's not important and I'm never going to help. I'm never going to focus on that stuff because that's very important. In fact, like you could be the change agent when you go into a place. And everything that you do, you help them hit their targets. You help them hit their goals. You lead amazing projects, but you also make sure that's inclusive and like accessibility, right? Like you could become an internal champion while achieving it. My thing about this is the first foot forward that we're saying. Like, welcome to my site. This is what I'm about. And what we said is like, hi, face everyone, right? And then the next thing I'm saying is that I'm a dedicated UX designer. Good. We like dedication. You have a focus on accessibility, inclusive design. At this phase of my startup, that's not a major concern for us yet. It should be, and I hope it will be. But if that's what's the most important to you, that's not what's the most important to us. So what you're doing is excluding some companies that could greatly benefit from your focus, right? So be somebody like, you know, put yourself out there. It's like where your value proposition of like how you're going to go in and impact the business, and then have it. Now, again, being said, if this is what wakes you up in the morning, like this is what gets you out of bed, do it 100%. But if you're honest about like, I'd prefer to get a job and then work within the beast to affect change, I would suggest you maybe make a slight change there. Yeah. Now the thing is, so passion. Passion. I find passion to be a difficult word, if I'm honest, right? So, like for instance, let's see if I can. Okay, so you see guitars back there. I'm passionate about guitar. I suck at guitar, right? And if you're going to have like a live show, you would prefer to have someone who doesn't really like guitar all that much, but is amazing at it, right? So passion for me sort of hides. It's sort of a catch-all word that means like I just love doing design. It's like I'm glad you love it, but are you good at it? You know, if somebody who's going to output consistently and have an impact on my business versus somebody who's not that great, but they really like it. At this, again, I had a team of 20. I have a team of 4 now. Well, how do I want to do it? So I'd be a little bit careful with that word where it's like, again, I'm going to come in, I'm going to have an impact on the business. I'm going to help you achieve your goals. I'm going to use my creativity to work with teams and solve problems. You know, there's just a better way in a tight market of how I feel to how to approach yourself or how to pitch yourself with that. So I don't mean to spend, I'm going to try not to spend so long on every little section, but it's just, I think it captures a lot of my overall approach at the current moment for portfolios. So yeah, so tighten up the spacing. I mean, with all of this space here, like just the dribble and the LinkedIn buttons on the top right feel like kind of inconsequential, like sort of like almost an accident. So perhaps even add them as words, like the full things. I will say too, that doesn't go anywhere. Now it's just maybe because you haven't finished your dribble yet. But if you're sending this to people, you're sent as a UX designer, you have something on your site that doesn't work, which is, not a good scene. And as always, I'm not saying, and I'll never say any of this stuff to dissuade you. I'm saying this stuff to steal you, to make you so like, we're able to kind of go on to the next. So I think your LinkedIn works. That it does. Wonderful. Okay. So then we come in. Now, the amount of space, again, this is all the tiny stuff, right? The amount of space above the word projects compared to down below, that's not the same, right? It's not balanced. It's not the same. We come down here. If you look how crowded this logo kind of is, like it's close. Look how close it is to the top here. The amount of space between the top and the bottom, and then from the left and the right of this logo, of the surveillance logo, right? And this just kind of seems to be an afterthought around, okay, and here's just the title of it. Some of the better examples I've seen, and I'll probably refer to this one a bunch. I found this design from Best Folios. Get out there and get as much inspiration as possible and find cool looking, amazing looking designs that you could piece from and take from to inform it. And generally speaking, you should be able to look at some of these and say, this is better than mine. I'm glad that I can see that because that produces a path forward for me to make mine better. Right. So one that I found that I really did like, and in fact, I'd almost want to have this photo smaller, but that's kind of almost like a style choice. But here it is. Here's the work. Great looking shot. It feels like it's going to be a really good looking design. It's like, here's the name of the company. And here's like one of the big takeaways. This is the impact that this thing had. And not only that, boom, 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 3 hits. I don't almost need to see the rest of it. Think about how powerful that is. Here's a work that I did. Look how nice that looks. Check. It's a good design. Okay. As a company, increase the beat. It's like, here's the goal of this situation. And here's 3 other things that we achieved. Like, damn, like just like smack, smack, smack immediately. Again, like we are designed. It's like we are controlling their experience. Like what a great experience to real fast be able to see everything on that first page. So I want to check one place for comments. Make sure I'm not missing it here. One moment. Make This also doesn't go there. Lovely. Okay. All good, all good, all good. And again, anybody who's joined late, if you have a portfolio you'd like me to review, just put it into chat or the comments, wherever you're at, and I'll try to get to it here. I'm taking a little bit longer on this, the first one, because we're kind of like warming up, and I'll see how many more I can kind of get through. Get into, yeah. So I just found like I think there's if we look at the amount of space that exists, like the amount of real estate, it feels like we can be a bit more impactful with what we're kind of saying here, and it just feels close to it compared to the rest. This is where it benefits from talking to other people. This tends to be a bit of a pet peeve of mine that I'm seeing a lot. But why is this orange cut off? Right? Because we look at this square, and this one makes sense because it's a photo and it's like it's cropped and it makes sense. But I come down here and look at this laptop, right? And it has a white background, just like the white background on my main website. But then this is shoved into the corner and then it's cut off for some reason, right? And this is especially troubling because over here we have, a laptop that's just kind of sitting on its own. We again have a laptop, almost same treatment, but now we're like having things arbitrarily cut off. So it's either like change the background color of the white or add some color or context like you did for this, right? And that's even a better point. Let's think about consistency here. So the first one is screenshot of the product on mobile. That's fine. And it's got a soft kind of blue background. By the way, and this is, again, I'm going nitpicky. You got to forgive me, but it's for the best. I think there's some Photoshop elements that were not quite removed. So you see this like little black part right here. And then you'll also see right here underneath like the 8.2. I don't know if it's coming up on stream, but at very least you can see this one here. Seems like it was kind of a sloppy Photoshop job. So you want to clean that up. Is that going to cost your job? No. But is like a bunch of these all together maybe going to cost your job? Maybe, right? But let's look at what is the motif? What is the theme of this website? Okay, we come up here, we got big full screen grays, right? And I'm on the top of the screen, we're entirely across, and we got big spacing. Look at the amount of spacing on this top bar, on this gray one. Okay, so we're going to go with luxurious spacing on everything, right? And then we come down to projects, and then we're like, itty bitty projects, right? Everything is just completely condensed and small. So what theme are we going for here? Like what? It's almost like if you took a screenshot of this and then a screenshot of this, they don't feel like they're part of the same website, right? Like take a look at this and then we take a look at this. Is this the same website? Like why is this one? Where does this width? Like look where my mouse is, and then we scroll up. We hit this up here, right? The name. This one's further, and then we go over here, and it's even further out. Like what is the motif? Like what is the purpose of the width? What's the one central theme that we can pull throughout the entire thing? And then let's look at these photos. There's kind of like the game. One of these things doesn't belong here. I'd say none of these belong here, in the sense that. So I'm not being mean. I just a bit of joke. Like we're going to make this better, right? We're going to get some work. We're going to get some job offers. So this first one has a logo in the top right, not attached to the product. It's got this kind of like soft blue background. Okay, the second one is just a random kind of an unsplash photo. Okay, so that's different. The third one is now a device sitting entirely on its own, but now this one doesn't have the logo like the top one did, right? And it doesn't have a background color. And then now this last one has these like orange like squares in it. It can make sense. It can make sense, right? Because these are all distinct projects, so they have different styles, of course. But we're visually telling a story here, right? Like we are cohesively presenting a narrative of who we are and the work that we've done. And the four of these things do not feel like they necessarily belong together. And that's not to say that it has to like look the same. Right? What I mean is like when we look at, again, and again, I'll be clear, this is not the greatest portfolio ever. This isn't exactly what you should do. I think it's a solid, well-designed example. Hey, Manta, very great to see you. Thanks for joining. So as we scroll here, again, featured work, we see this photo, this, and even here, look, entirely different context because it's holding it. And yet, because at very least they use the photo, they use the same corners, they use the same animation, it all kind of hangs together a bit better, right? It doesn't feel like disparate pieces. And then how well does this one go with the other one, right? So, we scroll down here, it just feels like 4 disparate products that are not attached to another. And then at the bottom here, let me get my face out of the way. 1 second. Here, so bottom left, just kind of randomly on the left side, right? Like, so look at how many different widths we have. Top menu bar all the way across. Underneath for the banner, slightly wider. Underneath that, now we've got super small, like really condensed content. And now over here, like we've gone all the way to the left again. Oh, no, actually, sorry, that's like aligned with here. No, it's not. Sorry, that's a different. Yep, so it's even wider. So we have it within one thing, we have 4 or 5 different widths that we just arbitrarily went with. So simplify, solidify, have everything, aligned up. Okay, let me you guys are all worried where I went to. Don't worry, I'm still here. Now let's actually get into the project itself. Now we've arrived. So the question here would be, I'm almost worried, like as it's coming out, like I'm almost worried it's coming like meaner. And I really do not intend this to come off like mean. I'm just trying to like, it's almost like jovial. I try to be like a bit having some fun with it, if you will, right? So let's see, going here. Very good. Okay, sorry. Are you a logo designer or are you a UI UX designer? Because when I arrive at this page, well, I kind of dig the header. Like that's kind of a pretty header. That's a nice looking header, right? And that's actually, in fact, very close to this one. So I think it's pretty. I think it's well done. However, what I see is the logo. Look at the size of this logo, and then this itty bitty little UI. So, did you design the logo? And if you did, is that the purpose of this portfolio piece, or have we misaligned the presentation of what we're trying to show? It's like look at the UI design that I did. Look how good this looks, right? So, yeah, I would highly suggest a shifting of this. And again, if you think about the widths, right? I could forgive a different width on the menu compared to the content. Okay, makes sense. But the size of the content here for like the work we're trying to show off. Hey, check out my case study. Look how good this looks, right? Look like this width, right? Compared to the top and then compared here to the content. Like, what are we doing? Right? So, really, it's like when they come in, and this is where like you'll really benefit from talking to a bunch, because I think this is kind of a personal opinion thing. But when someone comes to your site and they're looking at projects, can they design? Look, I'm super happy that you're good at research and all these other things, but end of the day, like, do you have a visual aesthetic? Can you design things well? Right? So you show the designs, check, great. What happened? What was this project? Was there an impact? Like, what was the results? It improved, shopping cart rates by 20%. Like user retention was up 30%. Like pink, 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 pink. Like what was the result? Oh, wow, look at that. Somebody arrives. They have very little time. They're reviewing 100 to 200 resumes or portfolios. And they see, okay, this design looks good. This guy can design. This is great. Oh, wow, look, he actually delivered the project and it had an impact. Wow, that's really great. Okay, then now walk me through the story. How did you get here? Right? So, yeah, really consider what we're trying to show up here. Now, along those lines, it's just this content I don't feel is very strongly laid out, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is way too much text. We are designers. We are empathetic to our users. Our users are recruiters, HR positions, and like design directors. Otherwise, they got 100 resumes at least for this current job, and I need to be able to get this information to them quickly. They will not read this, right? Generally speaking, that goes for all content, right? Generally speaking, no one's going to read. Now, the lousy thing about the industry is you have to have it, right? That's the lousy part about this is like no one's going to spend the time to read it. They do want to see that you have a well thought out, well scripted answer. But because that's the truth, what we're going to do is like highlight for each section kind of like the most key points we want to take away, right? So when we come to here, it's just like I have to work pretty hard to understand what this was about. Firstly, again, I don't know if you designed a logo or the design or what it was. I can see UX reach and designer, but I think there's better ways to lay that out. And this is where, you can really benefit from looking at other designers and portfolios. And again, maybe you don't like this style, forget it. Go and find another one that you do like. But again, I arrive at this person's site. This design looks tight. Like that looks really beautiful. Okay. Zolo, increased B2B order by 80%. Whoa, that's a cool impact. That's really nice. My role, as project lead, I don't need to read much more. Team structure, there's 3 of us. Research method. I can pick apart what I need to, and then I move on. And even better, look just how powerful is this? Like before and after. This is where they were. This is where we ended up, right? Just as an example. So yeah, really think about the structure of all this and how that's going to look. The line height. So the line height of this is a list item, and the line height between this, I think it's the same as this one, but the way it works, it just makes it doesn't really feel like it's together necessarily. So I would tighten that one up a little bit. And if we look at the size of the text here under the presentation deck, it looks much smaller than the entire rest of it. And I'd be curious, like, why we did that, right? So why have something different? And then for a title, let's go back to your home page here for a second. Yeah, so you have kind of a standard for headers, right? Like this is your header that you've kind of established, right? And at the very least, like here's like a secondary, like a larger font, text, right? And then we come here and it's like overview. Like it's very small. Like let's control the space. Like let's use font to drag people and to get people to pay attention to what we want to, right? And then just consistency as far as like the content. I don't know if we've had any other buttons. No, that's okay. So yeah, so just like bam, 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 like really be hitting them. Now, so again, so we talked about style, right? I don't mind that. So first, here's a dark blue. This dark blue, we have a light blue here, right? Soft blue here. And again, I'd like to pause for a moment and really thank Abel for sending me this, because it's really it can be nerve-wracking to submit work to have like reviewed like this. So like this is all because I want to hear from Abel in a week or two, and he got like a job offer, right? Sorry, so I'm just worried it's coming off like too harshly as opposed to constructive. Like I'm really trying to ensure that this is constructive. On this homepage though, and again, it's the type of minor things that honestly I'm seeing this portfolio a lot. So it's actually why I'm kind of going. It's why I'm kind of going a bit deeper on this and being really nitpicky, because this is the stuff I'm seeing that I think are easy to solve things that we can all make our stuff better. And I'll remind everybody again, if you want your portfolio reviewed, so I say, hey, I hope I'm not being too mean. By the way, if you want your site reviewed, just put your stuff. So really well played by me. But feel free at any point during the presentation here to put a link to your portfolio in wherever you're watching from and see if I can get to it as well. Okay, so here's this blue that's introduced. This blue does not, I think, exist anywhere else on the site, right? This is the one time it's there. So okay, that's catching. That's interesting. But then we come here. Now we have a new dark blue, right? This is the first time this has been introduced. Now it could be a secondary header. That kind of makes sense, but per this, the feel of this page, there's no other blues, nothing else. It's all black and white and that one kind of sharp blue. So where did this come from? Is this adding or detracting? Now this image, it's interesting, right? It kind of tells a story. My concern is that it does not look like it came from the design, right? Like I don't think that it's not a clever use of visuals that existed onto the site, right? And it didn't exist anywhere else on the rest of the site. And if we, sorry, on the home page or anywhere else, let me see if it made its way into another, and then it didn't anywhere else. So my concern with such things is like, that's a very throwaway graphic, right? It's not part of the site. It's a one-off, and it comes off a bit careless. At very least, and this, I've seen this a lot. I've seen people put, for instance, this type of graphic And then for the next one, just use something completely different. At very least, on this case study, it's consistent. So I got some appreciation for that. However, it has nothing to do with the website, and it has nothing to do with this project. So what is this? Right? It's kind of a matter of theme. It's thematics. Like much like when this is like, what is our visual language that we're trying to adhere to? And that type of thing, like that can get you jobs. Like if you are able to find a visual language and stick in that lane, super powerful. So we didn't have a visual language here. And what I worry about here is it's just, it's kind of throwaway. It's castaway. It's a nice graphic, but it's almost like we need to make this part of the site. Like you can almost, if you squint, so I'm trying to get the menu to show up. There we go. Shoot. All right. There we go. You could almost, because it's kind of a line work thing, you could almost see where it would go with the logo, but you'd need to have some sort of connection. Like have your own picture drawn like this, and then make sure you use it on every other case study. No throwaway graphics on these case studies is what I'd highly recommend. Now, we take a quick squint. So look at this text, and then look at where this graphic is. Look at the spacing of this. I'll tell you what, I need to, why don't we get a bit interactive here? Let's go ahead and I'm going to copy that. Let's go over to handy dandy Figma, everybody's favorite tool. How's everybody feeling about that UI3? I found out about, UI3 was thrust upon me during a client presentation. So I was just floundering around wondering where the heck everything got to, right? So here's some of those parts about consistency, right? So this section is not the same, right? Like, so the one on the right, for no particular reason, is much taller, right? The distance between the top gray and the text is, that's actually, I think that's this, it is barely not the same. Like it's close. It'd be hard for anyone to see with the naked eye, so that's not much of a problem. But if we, it's clearly not the same height as this one, right? And just like, so the amount of space between that. So it's just off. So we've introduced the graphic, and then we're not even treating it with consistency in where it's been introduced. So it's one of the simplest things, honestly, that we can do is find that visual language and be super clean with it. Yeah. So let's do a quick tirade on Figma. Man, I don't know what's going on with this UI3. I was so confused. I don't know. It just feels so like lifeless compared to the previous one. And maybe it's better. I got to use it for a while and kind of see, but it feels less charming. Figma always felt like kind of a fun program with like life in it compared to like Adobe and everything they had. And now, especially look at the left menu, feels so drab. And then they just moved everything on me in the bottom box. Like I eventually figured it out, but like, man, right in the midst, it took me a hot minute to find the stuff, like to find the things I was looking for as I was going. Of course, it had to happen during a client presentation. You know it, right? Okay, so we're talking about this. Unless we did a logo design, we have to get like the UI pieces we actually did, bring it to the top. Super clear. What did I do? What did this accomplish? Like, what was the output? What was the impact of this thing? And then for each of these sections, just like, what is the feeling flow tracker? Is a feature of health domain of civilians. No, it's fit into a journal. So narratively, right, as if we're like walking through a story, this is a piece of work I did. This is a quick snapshot of the work that of like this is the visuals we came out with. It's a nonprofit whose mission is to empower the community. When I first joined, it's a health conducted as a result. Okay, I led the team in brainstorming, selecting. I collaborated. So here's kind of thing. I don't actually when we're reading this now. So I kind of skipped through it because I was not so much paying attention, but I was trying to like move to the rest. I don't know what you did. If I look at this, Your role was a UX research and designer. What did you output? You brainstormed, you recruited users, and I collaborated. Did you not do the UX design? Which might be the case. That could be true. And if so, but it just needs to be clear about like what was your output for this. And if this was the design and you had to kind of stick with it, it'd be more, you'd find ways to illustrate perhaps like the research as opposed to, showcasing this design that you didn't have control of. So now what is the feelings flow tracker? I don't know what this is right now, which is funny because you're going to answer that in the next section, but is that what you worked on? It's like you were a UX research designer for the FFT, and now you're going to explain it. What I'm saying is like this feels like it just got completely dumped. It's like, what does this have to do with this case study? Is that what this application is called? Right. So overview, surveillance has a FTT, or like, you know what I mean? Like some sort of like introduction before we see it, because this currently just means drop. We're not going to solve this case study. That's not why I'm saying this. What I'm trying to show is just a different way to approach it. So this is about a narrative. This is a story, right? But we start with the punchline. We start with the crescendo. This is the thing that we ended up with. Look how awesome this looks. This is the impact it had. This is, and as a quick summation, this is what it was about, and this is what I did on it. Let me bring you through the story. In this case, then the first thing we do is just mention a random word we have not yet even touched upon. In this one, it would have been like we redesigned the feelings flow tracker. So now when it's introduced, what is the feelings flow tracker? It makes sense narratively, beginning and, think of it like Steve Jobs' presentation. Think of it as like a slide deck that you're having to show to an audience that's not going to take the time to read. Just listen. It's and then you're describing what it is. And again, if you just think about how long this takes, and how does this help me to contextualize what you did to understand that you're great at your job and make me want to hire you, right? And even with this demo, it'd be, is this what you did, right? And one of my challenges here is like, much like the top, like, look how small this is, right? Look how like absolutely minuscule this is. Like, I would suggest that at very least, if you wanted to have a left right, change this video one so it's actually just the size of the phone, so it's nice and zoomed in, so I can actually see the work and see like what's happening. This unfortunately is functionally useless. Yes, technically I can go full screen. Do you want to rely on that fact for a recruiter, for when the recruiter shows up and say like, the recruiter that was going to take the extra time to go full screen so they can really understand it, or are they going to go with a better portfolio that had taken that into account? With, we're designers, empathy, how are they actually going to use it, right? So, this as a showcase is a poor showcase. And then it's like, well, it's just the demo to have them understand it. Is it important then? What is the point of these screens? Every one of these screens, we should almost be able to screenshot and showcase as a portfolio item, right? Like every screen we have, where we are designing this for a purpose, which is to get us noticed and hired and moved. So it's either have this big enough and useful enough so that it's conveying something that is meaningful to the story of how we came in here and made a difference for somebody, or not have it, and figure that out. Okay, research questions. So again, what about research questions? Is this, did you decide that when I first joined Surveillance, the company recently launched a feature, they hadn't conducted any usability testing to identify pain point. As a result, it's essential for us to conduct research. Okay, so the whole point was I came in here to conduct research to make sure we know what's up. Okay. Chapter 1. The Surveillance has an app called the Feelings Flow Tracker. They had not produced any research, and we felt that we could better it by doing research. Great. But what is the Feelings Flow Tracker? Well, here's what we were working with. Here's what's up. So the introduction of our characters. Great. The first step, like establishing what we need to know, like known unknowns, like knowing, like identifying what we need to find out, like identifying the research part, like what part of the story is this? How does this relate to the previous one? How does it relate to the next one? what part of the steps was this? What part of the narratives, like what part of the story arc is research questions, right? A research focused on understanding how to use it, And again, so for somebody who is, if you kind of like squint your eyes and you don't actually read this, because that's how recruiters are going to kind of go through here, what you'd want to say is like, we landed on 4 key, like have the summation. This was like how we got here. Here's where we arrived. Like this was our thinking. This was the output. So it's like we arrived at 4 key research questions. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we wonder, is there not a better way that we could kind of present this? This is an opportunity to show our design chops, our visual chops, our even experience chops, right? I go back to this. Simple, right? Just boxed, like well laid out. There's this opportunity to convey that information differently. And especially since it's a item that kind of came out of it, like it's something we want to like highlight. Like here it is. Like we arrived at these questions and this was going to drive our next part. Join me in the next chapter. Same bad time, same bad channel. Yeah, same problem. And so that's it. So research questions. So think about this narrative. We had a lack of narrative. So what is this? We've never heard about this before. So we had to grok that it's the app that we're actually going to be researching. Okay, questions about what? Like for who, how, like when, like how does that work in the flow of this story? Like we needed to improve this. So we needed to first know what we needed to ask. So that's we came with these questions. Okay, goals. Like business goals, research goals. What goals? Like what are we talking about goals? Like it's just each of these sections just kind of drop, as opposed to being part of something that's going to pull me along to convey to me the value that you provided and why I want to work with you, right? Every screen is that kind of section. And then again, so this is that type of thing. This is a brand new visual. We have not seen anything that looks like this. And if we think about like the size of spacing between here, and by the way, so this is rounded corners, right? This is a red border. This is a blue background. As a minor point, unless my eyes deceive me, I believe the text is closer to the bottom than it is to the top. Let's survey says, whoops. Okay, that's about accurate. Oh, sorry, I need it on the bottom. Yeah, for sure that is, right? So then we have non-centered text on blue and then red, right? And that is entirely different than anything we've ever seen up to this point, and not in a pleasant fashion. Now, okay, for this person's app, for instance, for this portfolio, there has thus far not been any gray boxes, right? And then for the first time, they introduced inside of this work, they introduce those gray boxes. Okay. However, I will say that because it feels like it's part of this one, it feels like it's the same type of thing. It sort of works, right? And then there's just this immediate consistency. And I would bet, at least I would hope, I should have checked this before I started to blab, but yeah. And then they use it throughout the entirety of all their other things. They had a visual style, a visual identity, and just hammered it on every single case study that they did. And they did a great thing as far as like text here, like highlighting text, right? Just a little subtle highlight. It's the same color as this. You'll notice from this icon purple, this highlight purple. Just a nice little trick. I noticed that they had done that. But just feels thrown in there, right? And then again, much like on the homepage that we talked about, like widths, right? We look at these widths, the different sizes of it. Look at this. Like this is not aligned with any of the other changed my mind. It is aligned with that content. Okay, we'll forgive that one. I will say though, the amount of spacing from here, that's a little less forgiving, because the amount of spacing that we've kind of identified, that we've kind of shown up here, like this is the amount of space that we have between boxes. But now it's here. It could maybe be half this. That would be reasonable. But like to go this small makes it feel very crowded, right? Now, what's good is that this is a little bit more like akin to what I was kind of hoping for here. So the research questions, here are the questions. This ended up being the artifacts. Goals, like here are the goals. So at least it's a visual thing, but it falls apart a bit, and it's a new style that's entirely good. And it's just sorry, I'll be frank, like blue and red, those are not nice colors. Ultimately, I'm afraid. Like I think you'd want to really settle those down. Okay, so this one was I'd like to move on to another portfolio. I don't want to keep going at this, and I think I've kind of made some points. Just some other things. Again, just come at it with a really critical eye. Okay, so we have 1, and then you have task 1. You have 2, and then you have task 2. So why that? Why on earth do we have like a numbered list, and then we number them again a second time, right? And this is not like, I get this. This is sort of interesting, but just doesn't look nice. Like at the end of the day, then it matters. Like, unfortunately, right? Because somebody took the time to make it look nice. I'll be honest. Like, this is. That's why I brought this one up. For this person, when they wanted to show their research, their artifacts of the research, here's how theirs looked. Now, this is too small. This goes to one of the comments I said before, but they're not trying to have you read this. They're trying to say, we did a bunch of research, and here's all like the artifacts from the research, but here's the key takeaways. So in their case, this is done as a visual piece. This is not done as a, I want you to actually see what I've done. It's more, I want you to see that I've done things, right? So I would suggest to just make this look good. It's a bunch of different text, like spend a little bit of time and just make the visuals right and have it align like vertically, have it be the same height with this. Yeah, I mean, these graphics kind of work, but if you want to go for that, just like own it. Like, that's your visual style. Have it go throughout the website. Okay. So that was it. I think I went a bit hard on the paint on this one a little bit, but it more comes from a passion, right? Because there's something here. You can see the work, and it's just, there's so many. What worked so well for me when I saw this portfolio is that it is emblematic of a lot of what I'm seeing in current portfolios that are, from folks who are kind of saying, I'm not having a lot of success in the market just yet. Like, I'm not getting any callbacks. And I think it's those type of things where in our rush to get enough content on our websites, we're not critically thinking about how we're laying it out or the stories we're trying to tell. That's a very common designer thing. I'm seeing it a lot. So I went a bit hard in the paint, but it's not so much because it's so horrific and like beyond saving. It's more because it's a perfect example of it. So every time I see it, it's like, I've seen this a lot. Let me talk about that too. So I have a few other designs I can review. I would, however, if anybody does want to put their portfolio in the chat, I'd be happy to take a look at them with a bit more preference. But otherwise, I'll kind of move on. So yeah, because I could keep going on every single section, but I kind of want to instead would prefer to kind of move on to another one. So Abel, I can't thank you enough again for this. I really do appreciate that. Tell you what, the one thing I did want to get into, it's just the about pages. I always think about pages are an opportunity. I think we get kind of excited to talk about ourselves and speak about our journeys and figure out how we kind of got here. What I would like to put into that instead is, this is a chance for you to highlight like 6 or 7 things that maybe you couldn't elsewhere, right? So UX designer, great. Behind things of creating innovative solutions. So that's better. I just want to use this as an opportunity to, again, make the elevator pitch of why you're good. So like some of the ones that I use, it's like, over my 18-year career working with startups, from everything from enterprises to startups, including 3 successfully sold ones. I love to work with great people making good things. Good people making great things. That's a neat little summation of myself, but it also gives key information in a very digestible fashion. Okay, 18 years of career, has worked from enterprises to startups, has been part of 3 successfully sold startups, and is collaborative and like wants to output good products, right? So there's an opportunity there to really hone in the message about what you're trying to say about yourself. And so as opposed to a boilerplate, like, I like to go for walks, and I'm like, it's interesting. I came to design because I really liked art. Like that's an interesting kind of backstory. But are there any other facets of yourself that are going to showcase your value or potential value to the organization that maybe gives you that edge when it comes to hiring? So Abel, I cannot thank you enough for saying this. Like I saw it and it's just like, I'll be able to go through it, and it takes unbelievable courage to post it. So I really do appreciate you sending that along. I'll move along to one of the other sites unless somebody else has one They want to send from chat. Let's go. I think this, where is this one? So I think this one was, so there was a Reddit thread that was, roast my website type of thing. Right. So it's like, hey, here's my portfolio site. Please roast it. So I grabbed a few of those because I figured some folks may wanted to view, but not necessarily submit their own. So let's have a look at this one. It's not as visually clean as Abel's. The brown is a bold choice. Thanks, Maddie. Oh, Abel, you're here. Thanks, Abel, man. I said I hope that comes. Look, I hope you appreciate the passion I have for it because I want to hear from you in a couple weeks and like there was improvements and you got the job. You know what I mean? So and it's super easy to critique. It's so hard to build, unbelievably hard to build, and I absolutely like take that to heart. So I really hope it's seen as it's about building it up. I'm not trying to tear it down. I'm trying to build it up. So huge courage, man and like a huge bunch of positive vibes headed your way, hoping you grab a job. So thank you so much for submitting it. I really appreciate it. Okay, so here we have this website. First tells us, look, it's very tiny stuff. I think, yeah, you can see my tab. This is the default Squarespace favicon. Spend a second, like put your own favicon on there, right? Get it working. These three logos in the top right, they don't seem to be all the same size, and they do not feel aligned with these like the text over here, right? So when you look at about, you look at contact, it doesn't, and then look at the size of Behance versus the Twitter bird, which by the way is out of date, should be an X, but it is not sitting there cohesively. A user experience researcher, designer, and strategist based in NYC. So, and I wonder if I could put this to chat. Does anyone know what a single word on its own line is called? Have to give it a quick second. I think in my UI, there's a slight delay in chat. I don't know if anyone wants to try to place what it's called when there's a single word on its own. It's kind of like an old school design language. I'm not sure if it's used as much anymore. I don't want to wait. I want to keep going. So it's called a widow, right? So that's if there's ever a word, it's more done in like graphic design and typography, or like when you're setting type. Widow. So yeah, I knew somebody was going to grab it. Thanks, Amounty. I think you got it before I said it. I absolutely. My interface has a bit of a delay. Yeah, so it's a widow. Not great. You never want to have widows if you can avoid it, and especially with we have think of the luxury of space we have on this, right? And it's either just like, you know what, go ahead and put it on its own line. Oh, interesting. YouTube doesn't let me add. Oh, thanks, Max. Okay, sorry, we got a comment here. Check this out. I can actually put it on screen. I can put it on blast. I love it. Oh, sorry, I should say first. So we had Amonte. I love that. I'm such a dork. I just love that I can do this stuff. So Amonte had correctly identified it. It was Amonte or a widow and Max. Huh. YouTube. Damn. Okay, hold on. We're gonna take a quick second. I want to see if I can enable. Maybe there's something that I did that's not allowing comments. Give me 1 second. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, make sure. Hope this doesn't have sound. It does. Let me exit. Okay. Oh, it's just maybe I see other ones from other folks. Okay. Anyways, yeah. Sorry, Max. I'm not sure what's up with comments for some reason. But awesome. Thanks so much for putting it up, man. Really appreciate it. Let's get this typed out. I'm going to pause on this one. Let us maxbartis.com. Nice. Okay. And we got a no worries. I like it. So when we arrive here, I did have the benefit of Abel's. I did take a look at beforehand. So we're going to do this real time. And again, I've already stated it. I'm going to restate it because and this is how important it is to me. This is an opinion, and this is one opinion, and I hope it goes off and you check out, like, you can speak with 3 to 5 other mentors. ADP less is really great for that because Trevor says one thing and then 3 other people say something entirely obvious. Trevor's probably wrong, right? So this is, in a lot of ways, it comes from opinion, but it's just be from my perspective. What I like about it is it's immediately interesting. It's eye-catching, right? So you have sort of this like static effect. I don't know if it's coming through the stream. I think it is slightly. You have this sort of bubbling stream effect, or like a static effect. I think that's kind of cool. The layout is bold, so that's exciting. That's really cool. Hey, fellow Canadian. That's always great to see. So yeah, I'd say this is a bit. So, and again, it comes down to a bit of a preference, and there's always going to be a push and pull between legibility and beautiful design. I almost find this a bit on the legible side, but I don't mind it. That I would be fine with it. So I don't think that's so bad. I had noticed I actually did check your site before. I think one of the things I was a little less, my problem is like I was a little less impressed with it if it was smaller. I don't know what people would have this type of. Let's actually figure out that. How's that looking on stream? That's okay. Let's do an inspect. Okay, so 15, 14. I think the new MacBooks are like around a 1400 or so. That's not bad. I just, for some reason, for me, it loses the amount of spacing that's put between here, and especially how this left side now kind of blows out the other two. I don't have a great solution for that necessarily. I do wonder if maybe like you reduce the right side so it's more like 2/5, 2/5, 1/5, or some other kind of like ratio like that, where these socials take a little bit less because there is a lot of like empty space here. But I was just like, I was really like, I landed here, boom, like this spoke to me. This really made a lot of sense. But as soon as I kind of got into the smaller ones, like there's a few versions of this I wasn't quite so sure of. And if that's what the first thing that they're going to see, that I'd have some concerns. And I don't know if that's maybe just even like delineating these in between, but adding more lines, you just start to kind of lose some of the effect that you're going for. So we scroll in here, and I just find it the same type of effect where, yeah. So, kind of like, this is a good representation for one of the things we were kind of talking about, where there is a visual style and the site is sticking to it tightly, right? Where it's a shot of what it was, some gradient color in a sharp square, 1, 2, 3, 4, like clearly seen, clearly delineated. I don't know that this is going to be as rich a vein as the other site, Max, if I'm honest. It's looking pretty good. It's just good news. Yeah, I think my challenges here for a lot of stuff I'd say about this, it feels more like it's just kind of personal opinion, and like we're different designers, so it's not going to really matter. Because like clearly labeled projects, complete is interesting. Okay, as in like you coming soon. Okay, makes sense. Like the visual choice to have this below and then this arrow all the way over to the side. Now I don't have a strong change I would make to it, in the sense that like I wouldn't design it that way, but that's because like we're different, and that's like entirely fine. So there's nothing I think that's wrong with it. Let me make sure your links are all working. Good, they are. Excellent. Okay, let's actually get into this one, a case study. So, welcome. I'm Max, a product designer based in Toronto, Canada, striving to bridge the gap between design and development. Okay, excellent. I'm also co-creator of that, an interface review and comparison platform, currently looking for full-time opportunities. Excellent. Striving to bridge the gap between design and development. Yeah, it's like the striving word would be only. So what I do like is like it's a specific thing where it's like, hey, some designers are real divas to work with and they suck. So it's nice that you're putting yourself out there where it's like, no, I work really well with the developers. That's excellent. Striving to bridge the gap. Again, I just like I sound too much like a broken record, but I still do. If your designs got like improved my profits by 30%, I don't care that the gap is that smooth, even if there was a bit more friction. So, but there is like benefit to that gap like decreasing. So it's almost, I wonder if there's like a business aspect you can put into it for the hiring manager, where it's like, enabling better outputs with design development cohesion. Or that is a very terrible version I came up with, but again, that's sort of a niggle. I don't really know that it would be much better than that. I like that pitch. Basically, that's not so bad. Now this one I'll say this I find interesting. I've heard. I'm going to present this as information that I've heard. I can't say that I have a strong thing about it, but I think it's worth like knowing. So I'm co-creator of Zanami, an interface review and comparison platform. So for somebody who's looking for a full-time opportunity, what happens if Zanimi goes huge? What if it blows up? Right? Are you going to spend half your time kind of in the back of your head thinking about this product? Or, are you going to be able to fully commit to us? Are you going to be with us for the long haul? Or if this blows up, like you're going to be out the door, you're going to leave us in the dust? I think it would sort of depend on what you're trying to do with this site. And this is an active site that you are sending to people like, hey, please hire me. What I would slightly worry about is that this sort of feels like dueling loyalties. Now, on the flip side, so that's one argument. If I'm honest, I think I fall a bit more there, where it's like, I am a designer. I will provide a lot of value to your company. I'd like you to hire me. Like, let's work together. Let's talk business. I'm going to make your company better. Right? So like a full focus on that particular business. The flip side of what I've just said, some might argue, I'll give you the devil's advocate, that it shows, when you don't currently have a gig, or like in your free time, I'm also designing. What do I do for fun? I design, or I build. Like I'm out there, I'm in the mix. Like I'm design, like I'm building stuff in a current place where there's such an aptitude to grind and build more things and get out there and do stuff. Like it could be seen instead as a motivation, like somebody who's like is really driven and knows what it's like to build something from the ground up, right? So those are the two sides. You'll have to kind of see where you land, and that's one of those things. Like if you get enough feedback, from my personal vantage point, and anybody, if anyone has like a comment or a thought on it, like put it in the chat. Happy to feature some comments. Where I personally fall, for me, my problem is like I read this and then I read this. If you weren't necessarily looking for full-time opportunities, I wouldn't mind that as much. But the fact that it's like I'm currently looking for full-time, but I'm also co-creator, then it's like, well, then you can't be full-time, right? But something to consider. I had to find something to pick apart because generally it's like pretty strong here. Okay, let's get into one of these projects. That is a nice transition. And a nice back transition as well. So we get to the actual app. Good looking app. So this is that. Kept with the kind of visual balance on the top. It's an interesting like placement of this word. I think it kind of goes along with. Yeah, I don't know that it strikes that same type of. Most of these other things seem to be attached to something else. So complete is attached to the top. These are attached to the bottom. Sub head to this. All of these ones are kind of hierarchical and like kind of stick with each other. We then get into here and it's just kind of floating out there. And so it almost feels like if we were going to go with the same, in my view, if we went with the same visual theme where it's like if everything here is at the far edge, we are using every single pixel that we have possibly, right? If we were to use that motif, I would think that this would then be probably like all the way over here to the right side. Or at very least, like probably like under here, that's kind of a safer play, but it almost feels like this needs like in for a penny, in for a pound. Like go for it, put it all the way over there. So we've produced work for this social video program. Here's like what it looks like. It is a good looking design, bold color choices, which is great. Okay, background. Excellent. So, and this kind of hits to it. So it's like, so background of the project, research and pain points. I do wonder if I don't know if there happen to be, what would you call it? If there is an impact that happened with this video experience over time, social, because if it's maybe just like a personal one, a personal project, then the impact is kind of hard to hit. Testing area. Oh, geez, here it is. Oh, hot damn. So what I might suggest then is like let's get that awesome stuff up to the top, right? Snibble. And I think that would like benefit here from a new favorite designer, Faye. But it's like here's the awesome work, like but like here's the through line. This is like what happened. Here's what it is. Here's the amazing design. Here is the impact. Let me tell you a story, and then we start to go through it. So here's the back now, and then I think it'd be a lot of kind of the same comment as before about the narrative of it. So let's see. So we start with the back. So I'd suggest impact or like some way of like working it in, because especially that you have it and it's impressive. In fact, like that's really cool. And I do wonder too if it might benefit from. I don't want to ruin the aesthetic here with like this negative space is very purposeful, and that's exciting. Like it's different, it's interesting, it's visually appealing. That's nice. Do we ruin it by bringing in those awesome stats? This awesome like these excellent like outcomes, right? So a la Faye, the best designer in the world, the greatest portfolio. Way I keep going. I should have had at least like 3 so I could stop like referring to the same one. But I do wonder just like to kind of get in the same way of just getting the joke. It's almost like they wouldn't even need to go to the case studies. They come up here. Oh, bold, like interesting design. Cool. Okay, lots of experience. Okay, that's kind of cool. Scroll down. Okay, they got 4 things, and damn, like look at the impact each one has had. At that point, it's almost like you don't even need to read the case studies. It kind of like obfuscates the need to like go to the next page. The challenge would be is that it's going to crib on the design a bit. And what do we want to do here, right? So that you have to play. I don't have a firm answer on it. I would be worried I'd be nerfing the design, but I'd be pretty excited to see some of those stats come up top. And I feel like much like this, it's like Snibble. If it was like a one sentence and then the impact, it'd be nice to get some context before we do anything else, right? So just like bringing it up because like generally speaking, no one's going to want to read this. Not, I mean, in an interview, like if you in the interview rounds and like as you get passed along to like more and more, I just mean like some of the initial ones. And the first, we're kind of worried about this like first initial step with our portfolio. So you're doing all these various things with the market already saturated, so we could offer it. With the market already saturated, we began researching to identify what users are missing. It's almost like I kind of feel like this would benefit from a byline, so that if I read nothing else, it'd be sort of like background. We needed to find like how to offer a unique experience. Background, how to offer a unique experience. Role, platform, year. Great. I don't need to read the rest. For year, generally speaking, I don't like to have people like include the year. I do like the years here because it shows like the fact that you have 5 years at a place actually looks pretty good. A lot of folks are having like only 1 or 2, so it kind of shows a stick to it of it, which is nice. But I do wonder about a byline, even if it was just an extra line on top that kind of hits it, so I don't have to read anymore because folks may not and they'll skip it. Research and pain points, like to what end? Like what was it? It's like we needed to find it, or like this is where it was. With the vision to create an analyzed competitor. Collaborate with the market team or reset the target audience, multitasking length. The research and pain points, find like the path forward to find how to make it unique. Like, just like I wonder if a byline would like help with that. And then these were the outputs. So multitasking, length, privacy. Major trend is that people prefer to engage in several simultaneous, like watching a video and communicate with their friends. Yeah, again, it's just like I was excited to see that these were kind of called out. I wonder if these lines could be truncated a little bit more, so it's like just really punchy, and I can get it through on my on that first pass. We got a nice full screen. So competitors, sketching based on our research. So it goes full screen, and then like a very sharp, harsh left-right divide, which is on theme with the homepage. This feels very much at home there, which is cool. And then back to full screen. Yeah, so I see like research and pain points, and this kind of feels like it's just presented without comment. I was able to get the joke, right? But ultimately, this is like the competitive landscape. I don't know if the competitive landscape lands within here. Some of the main competitors were okay. Some of the main competitors were YouTube, Instagram, and Airtime. It almost feels like it just needs some sort of byline, some like head, like some way to identify like what are these three going? Because I didn't read to this part, like I missed this sentence, and therefore like these three just kind of felt like it was just thrown in there from my perspective when I was like kind of coming through here, just as a honest thing. So this is what we were doing about. This is like this is how what we're gonna research and to see. These are our main competitors. And then sketching. So I wonder, and this is where, so I'll be honest, like before this call, like as I was researching, it was the first time that I'd ever seen research presented in this fashion. And I really fell in love with it, if I'm honest. Like it's good that you did some sketching. It's not as though these sketches are Da Vinci level and I will hire you because of this. It's good to see that there was thought process, but I wonder if there's a way to start to condense these things down into each other, where it's almost like sketching and app and structure content, like they start to, those are like almost two different things. But you kind of get what I'm saying. I just find that this is fine. It just feels a bit out of place with the rest of like the visuals and the strong, bold things that we're doing so far. And then my one slight problem is I don't mind these huge, when I'm going through, I don't mind an occasional breakup of these like large, beautiful photos. Like that kind of works. But I didn't like big photo, very tiny text, big photo. And I'm wondering if there's some way to combine it. At very least, perhaps if you chunk this up a little bit and like put some pieces of paper and have that kind of stick on the right side, a la like this content. I wonder if that might go a little bit better. And then we get into the actual like information architecture, which again is like good. I wonder if it has to be two necessarily. Like how much is this? Like it's awesome to see. Like it's good stuff. But as far as like this much real estate, I wonder like the bang for the buck on it. Video experience. Over time, we worked on a different functions, feature playlists. So video experience, like what do we mean here? I really think like the byline might help, like the secondary like highlights, like over time we worked on adding foundational features, search and playlist. We introduced new ways for users to interact with the app, such as curated topic feeds. Because the way this reads, it almost like iteration, like how we arrived here, and that would be a bit more to. There's so here's this like iteration, right? This style doesn't work. Like so, it's like just steal this one from Faye. But at very least, like what the purpose of those particular screens, and she also had this kind of like before and after, but you can almost see like if there was an iterative type of approach. I wonder like what are we trying to convey when we show these screens? They look nice. So at very least it's like the design is good. So that's like powerful, that's like useful, that's good for us. But video experience as a title, like what have we said, like what is a part of it? So the background, okay, the background of this project. We then embarked upon some research and identified some pain points. Which ideally it's like either to like find a goal and like we're researching ways to achieve that goal. Sketching was, that initial kind of app layout, like we wanted to work with it. And even so, if we think about that, like the benefit of it, before moving into Figma, I created low fidelity sketches to test layouts and establish app structure. Fine, like it's almost like I'd want another punchline as to why that was beneficial, or like how we use that, or like initial sketching relay, like through initial sketching we found opportunity to XYZ, like how that kind of benefited it, because it's not as though like I will not hire someone unless they sketch. I don't want people to jump into the high fidelity mocks necessarily right away, but ultimately, like, what is the purpose of presenting this? Like, what are we trying to convey? If somebody, what would you want the hiring agent to read or see this section of? And like, oh, he's a thorough thinker that likes to not jump to into solutions. Just be a bit more like plain with the purpose of this section. I see a lot of these, and honestly, a lot of times it feels like people feel like they have to. I'll put it this way. I would swear to you, there is not an insignificant number of portfolios where people arrived at the design and then for the case study, like drew bad versions of it. Just, oh yeah, like I really thoroughly thought about this. Like I for instance, I don't sketch. Just not part of my flow. I tend to get into, Figma and just like my boards are a catastrophe. Like 50, like hundreds of boards wide, just like all these experimentation. That's how I do my work. But I think there's some folks like me, and they'll just go back after the fact, and like it's like, oh yeah, lots of sketching. Max, to be clear, I'm not saying that's what you did. I just like anecdote that I kind of like always like chuckle at when I see sketches sometimes. So yeah, one of those things about like if we go back to our empathy, we go back to our target audience. It is a recruiter, and they are looking through 1,000 portfolios over the coming weeks. It is a hiring manager, and they got 400 applications on LinkedIn. It is a design director who has to do their job, but they also got sent a bunch of things to check out. They're here. They are now impressed with the visuals because the visuals of this are tight. This is the strong visual storytelling, like great theme. It's gone throughout. The actual design of the app, also solid. So the only thing left now, in my opinion, from this is to say, okay, like as part of this process, like this is the purpose and the outcome of the steps of the process. Like let me bring you through the story. And if there was like an extra byline, so you could describe like the quick takeaways, so that for that person without time, they're not going to have to read to understand it, because they won't until like the interview or the next phases of it. Introduction of what this is actually competition, and understand like how you might work sketching in, because just like it's a lot of big screens like one after the other, so the impact of it kind of falls off a little bit for me. And then consideration maybe condensing this, like being a little less strong, and if anything, outcomes from this, like in laying out the content, we actually found 6 areas of overlap that we were able to condense and improve the UX. Like, was there anything within here that we can kind of improve, right? Or like, sorry, was there any outcome of this particular part that like we were able to draw out that's going to feed into the final? And then, and again, like if I just come to this part in like video experience, I don't know what that is. It's like was this UX of the video experience? Is it the video experience challenges? Is it iterations? Like what video experience? What? If you think about like the menu of most like overview, the challenge, research, insights, recommendations, learnings, or like final design, right? One of our items is video experience, and that's what. So what? How does that fit into that narrative as part of the other ones? Or perhaps it's kind of like the designs. It's like the finals, like the arrival. This is how we did the video. This is how we did the social. So it's almost like a subheader for it. So it's introduction of like, and this was the result. Here's the video. Here's the social. And then challenge. That's how to find a way to say challenge AI integration. Or AI opportunities, like opportunity. Well, anyways, like challenge is interesting. I like that too. And then it's like, is this before the design is delivered, or it's like after design, like the next level, taking it to the next level? It's again, it's almost just as a narrative. I'm trying to read these as storytelling chapters, and app structure, sketching. It started to make sense. This is the background. This is what we're going to do. I had to research and find out what's going on. Started by sketching and figuring out, laid out all the content, some information architecture, and then just video experience. That's where it kind of fell off for me. Social experience. Oh, okay, we're talking about the actual final, the output. Cool. And then AI, it's like, is this on the same level as social experience? And it would instead be weaving or utilizing AI, or the AI opportunity. And then design systems. So that's one of the things Joe came out with. Super impressive. That looks great. Testing iteration. That's again, like that totally makes sense. And I like the visuals, right? Like how you went up with outcomes. Yeah, I don't know. It feels a bit outcomes like this is fantastic. I would almost want to see this like there's some way to like blow it up, or at very least too. I just half wonder if there's like another section you can put in here that's just I feel a bit let down. I put it that way because we got all the way here. The designs look fantastic. At the very end, we did testing and iterations. For me, it almost feels like we did testing and iteration. If this is the design system, this is the AI that we implemented, this is the designs. It almost feels like testing and iteration goes first. It's kind of a let because this is the crescendo. Like, look at these awesome designs. This is really cool. Wait, you got AI in your stuff? You can design AI? Oh my God, this is amazing. And you also implement a design system? Damn, like that looks really smart and clever. That probably is very helpful. We also did testing. It's like, well, you would have done testing before like the final output, right? So I think there's probably an opportunity to switch that around. And then outcomes, super cool. I half wonder if there's some way to like blast this out. That's fine. Outcomes, and then just wait to the next project. I just half wonder if there's another sentence in there or like another section in there that talks about reflections. It's like, we altogether we spent the better half, and I am. I've already said like, oh, you shouldn't have too many words because people aren't going to read it. But ultimately, just like one more kind of pane that like gives a reflective summation of everything that you had done to arrive at this point, how great it was, and how excited you are for the app as goes, and see its next iteration. And I do wonder at that point if you want to hit like kind of it's like interested to learn more about it or discuss about your own project, contact me, right? Because we've come all the way down here, we might as well like kind of hit that contact, right? We want them to talk to us about work, and then here's another like we get to the next project. But that's right. I don't know. So that's kind of like poking at the edges because ultimately, like this Max, like this is in my opinion, this is super strong. Like this is super cool looking. I had actually seen it before. I forget how I came across it. I think I saw that you had signed up and I checked your ADP listing. And it's just different, very well put together. It hits some of the notes that we had previously talked about where you had a visual theme and it's super strong throughout. And the actual designs look great. So, it's very much kind of like picking at the edges, but that's excellent work. I think that's an excellent portfolio personally. Sorry, big sip. Everyone likes to hear a big sip of water on air. So I can do another if starting to lose my voice a little bit. Coming up on the we've been going for like hour and a half. Not bad, not bad. I can go to. I'm going to get started on another one, but if anybody else wants to, and again, sorry, like Max, again, I think I said it, but one more time. Thank you so much for posting the URL. That hugely brave to like put it up in front like this, and so easy to critique, so hard to build. I'm really impressed with that. I think that's really awesome, man. Oh, cool, man. I'm really glad. I hope you use that, and I hope to hear about your like awesome gig next. Because yeah, you definitely got something. So keep it going. Really cool. So if anybody else wants to post sorry. There we go. We'll put your face on screen one more time, just so it's not this mug this entire time. Anybody else wants to get their design reviewed? Feel free to put our portfolio site reviewed. Go ahead and put it in the comments. Happy to take a look here. I think we have time for one more. Otherwise, I had another one kind of queued up that we can speak to. So this one was, and yeah, feel free to interrupt anytime you want to get yours. If you're listening, Max had an issue, couldn't comment on YouTube. If that's the case, maybe you can head over to my Twitter at Alexander Trevor, or Twitch. Even anywhere else you can find me, you go ahead and like just post it there. Happy to take a look. Otherwise, I'll get started with this. Feel free to interrupt it if you do. All right. So I came across this one, and it's fairly nice, right? In so much as it's some nice colors, decent logo, good like gradient fonts. When you come down here, everything kind of like something that we've said before has a bit of a theme, right? So those are all there. Where it starts to fall apart a little bit for me, it'd be just the amount of fonts here. Now, for the vocabulary nerds out there, I know there's typography and there's fonts. Okay, I call it fonts. You all know what I'm talking about, so take those words somewhere else, okay? But right here we can see we got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just right away, right? And you could almost understand it where it's like, okay, this is a small little cute intro, then a big name, and then a more important byline, and then it's just a lot going on, right? And if anything, it's like you almost want to just have like a hi, Becky Lynn. Kind of curious about like what is this second line? Building designs for this, previous at that. So they talk about their current gig. Okay. As a curious goal-driven product and UX designer, I make the world an easier place to live in one design at a time. So how do we feel about that sentence? As a curious goal-driven product and UX designer, I make the world an easier place to live in one design at a time. So not bad, right? So what I do like, so curious, that's always great. I think curiosity is one of the kind of underappreciated skills that folks have, because somebody comes with a problem and it's like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Like, you don't jump to solutions. You don't jump to defensiveness. It's that sounds like a curious problem. Let's unpack that. Let's see what this is about. So curious, I don't mind. Goal driven, fantastic. In a time when, like, again, 20 designers down to 5, somebody who wants to come in and achieve, excellent. So I really do like that. So curious. So as a curious goal driven product and UX designer, great. And that for me is like super powerful. I think that's really sharp. Curious is a bit more of the softer side. Goal driven is more of the harder side. And I'm a product designer, UX experience designer. Great. Super awesome. So I make the world an easier place. So I really appreciate this. This is subtle, but I like this one. I make the world an easier place. She didn't say better. Because here's like, I love design. I love UI UX design, but it is a service, and specifically like we're building little apps and websites, right? We can do big important things. Like designers can really change the world. I do believe that, but that's the difference. Like, I make the world an easier place. She's not saying she's changing the world or making the world a better place, because that's almost self-aggrandization. I make the world better by doing the following things. So that's super small, but so impactful, right? Because it's almost like it's almost an appreciation for the narrow band of which we have to affect change, where we can make things easier to do. You make contacting your congressperson or MP easier. You make it easier to book things online. You know what I mean? I think that's great. Easier place to live. It's almost like, however, the one thing I'd probably change is like this last thing, place to live in one design at a time. I find it a bit bulky. I almost want to see it as I make the world an easier place to live one design at a time. A bit more mystique in that one. I think that'd be a little better. They're pretty good. Yeah, I don't mind the space. Like, it's breathing a lot. I maybe would tighten it up, because it kind of depends on, like, different sizes and such. That's scaling pretty nicely, though. I don't mind that so much. It feels maybe a little bit big to me, but that's kind of a stylistic choice. I don't mind it. Too many fonts. I prefer it to go down. I like the logo. I think that's neat. And again, it's put up as a favicon, so that's really great. So for these four, these four, feels like it's part of the same site, right? Because at the very least, it's got the same pastel kind of color in the background. Those pastels seem to be present in this top one. So that's like a visual theme that's all together. I will say that, so this is an unfortunate accident, right? So I think these are probably other screens on this design, but if you see in this corner, you got this little white square, and it's just kind of messing with the vibe. So that's an unfortunate coincidence, either from the image or it's just an artifact. We'd want to clean that up. And the one challenge I have, though, is like kind of akin to the other thing, is that we have 4 different presentations of designs, right? And sometimes for the same thing, where this is a website and this is a website, except this one we have it in a browser in the center with mobile, and this one we have off to the side, right? So that's not I'm losing my words, consistent. And then this next one, it's okay, an application, that's kind of cool, like built a web app, looks pretty good. As a GIF, that's also exciting. But then same thing, except now it's in an iPad. So we have four things, we have 4 different presentations, right? And this is the opportunity where we can have that consistency and focus on like the content of it instead. Notice there's kind of like I don't know if you can see it on stream. I'm trying to see that, but there's like these weird outlines for the links on that. Just want to clean that up. That's not a big deal. Let's make sure LinkedIn is working. It is. Wonderful. Same with the mail. Great. Thanks for stopping by. Streaming the program cycle app to speed up data collection and comprehension. Streamlining to speed up. It's almost like, yeah, I wonder if we could reduce those sentences a little bit. Not too important, but like not too bad. Compassion, internship, app redesign. All right. Not sure compassion, and it's almost too soft in the current difficult market, where it's like, what's some of your key strengths as a UI UX designer? Compassion. It's like, it's a little too soft, I feel, right? There's an internship, app redesign, great. So now the challenge is like, okay, so compassion, I suppose, was kind of like oh, never mind. That might be the name of the company. Hold on. It's the name of the app. I'm adult. Sorry. So remind that. So it's compassion, and then the environmentalist, lead designer, 0 to 1. So taking it from nothing to 1. Okay. I'm getting it. It's clever enough. I think this one kind of works. Neuroleap startup design, 0 to 1. Student to student peer counseling, website redesign. Yeah, I think that's all fine. So not too shabby. Not too shabby. Let's get into the actual case study. So excellent. So again, I think this is a great version of it. I don't like this blue. For me, so here's slightly the problem. Like this blue seems to be this blue here. So I like that they're, you tell you what, I'll retract that. That blue's fine. This blue alone, the problem is like that's stock standard HTML link blue, right? So it looks like undesigned. However, it's pulled directly from here. So I think that's fine, honestly. So I'll retract that one. But this is a great screen. Like look at how nicely this screen is laid out. Where nice, beautiful thing. This is well designed. This person can design. Check. Right? Streamlining data collection and comprehension for churches. Okay. So streamlining data collection and comprehension, like hot damn, like that is pretty cool. Like that as in it's an interesting project. Like that is super cool. And then a really nice summation of these parts. Of this is my role. This is a team product. You want to have that as like output, and then impact. Even that. I don't know. That needs to be bullets. I think that kind of feels a bit forced compared to these other ones. And I almost want to see like the this bolded for the 67 cents. Reduce data collection burden by 67%. That is amazing. Like that is fantastic. Which actually, I mean, that's not a bad. I'm getting some questions recently from folks who did not receive any data feedback about how their apps were performing. And then so I'm sitting here talking about impact. It's like, well, what impact can I do? And if you do an app redesign, even as just a thought experiment, you look at the Starbucks app, I want to bolster my portfolio. I'm going to redesign their search one. When I did, by the time I was finished, I reduced clicks by 23%, or I reduced needed clicks by 23%. Because the way that I did it, like there's less places to tap and it automatically fills, right? That's not a bad way to like call up a number where like you were looking to achieve a goal and like you had it put out like that. So yeah, so I think it's a solid screen. We get a nice middle one. Have we? I was curious about this font. Did I miss? No, that's the one here. What I didn't recognize is because this is bolded. I'm not sure then that I like this bolded compared to used like this. But that's okay. So context. As a UX design intern, I redesigned an app to make for churches. Compassion. So this is kind of like that byline, right? So it's like, okay, this was the output. This is the outcome. This is the beautiful design. The stage is set. This is where we're going to go. You might wonder how I got here. Let me walk you through. So the context. This is what this is all about. So with that in place, with the goal of improving the highest community needs. So at this point, it feels a bit wordy. So we're getting into a lot of sentences. It's almost like at some point, I kind of want one of these to be like a title to own, like to really identify the content that we're going to get into the different sections. And this is like, especially for something that's going to be I don't mind it. I don't love it. It just, again, it's almost like I kind of appreciate that there's a tiny little title It's a stylistic choice as far as like not being like where like your H1 is almost not the biggest one. We even call it H5 as like an information tag instead. I don't mind it, but then we throw that away because now it's this entire sentence, right? And then now we have like another sentence. So it's almost like too cute by half. Small title and then like a sentence as the header. Okay, but now like there's a sentence as the subheader as well. Like what are we getting at here? It would almost be like I prefer this to be small, have this exist, and then make this sentence as part of this one. So we're not getting like too cute with it. Same problem we saw like in the other ones. And again, this is what I mentioned, like I see it all the time. Drives me kind of batty. These are 3 different graphics. None of these belong in the same family of like iconography, right? So we got blue, we got circular, and even within, like check this out, even within, this is like a double sin. Because even within these, like these are not icons of the same family. I don't think a single one of these is part of the same icon family, right? Like take a hard look at the line of this one. This is a different blue. This is slightly thicker. This is sharper than this one, but also all of these lines connected. This one has a break. This is super thick, and then this is like super soft on the edges, right? Not a single icon of any of these are from the same, even within the section. And then we go to here, completely different style. We go to the next one, completely different style. just throwing it away every time, right? So it feels throwaway. Like it's just a little bit of iconography. Like it's just an icon as one part of a section. And yet it's just like, what are we doing here? Like everyone's different. Like couldn't own it, control it. And just visually like squint, right? Squint and look at this thing. The middle one looks so much bigger, like visually, than the other two, right? This is the type of stuff we want to control. So we started off super strong. Didn't mind this section. To be honest, like this section's a hot mess. Like this one has really kind of like let us down a little bit. Because we kind of got rid of our cute context as far as like small titles and then like sentences as like headers. And then a brand new font, and then this is entirely different. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Like again, like that might be the same. Tell you what, we're gonna inspect real fast. I'm not gonna be this petty. What do we got? What do you got? Okay, this is 13. Where are you at? Come on. Serif 14. It is different. Boom. Yeah, the old eyes still work, folks.
Yep.
Sorry, my phone deciding to try to call 911 for some reason. Okay, so yeah, just again the flow of the text and the fonts and the colors. Like think about all the different stuff that's going on here. Like small and to the left, 4 different sizes, a bunch of different iconography, a new card. Now that's fine. Like we might be like, this is kind of a card, so it sort of works a second time, right? But now every time this has existed, this has been an H1. But now we're introducing it inside of a small card within a different section, right? And then now here is, you know what I mean? Like we're breaking the previous paradigm, or we're borrowing elements and putting where they shouldn't be. Like we've entirely destroyed a context that we'd kind of established, which is just a shit. Because look again, like watch how this works. Beautiful, solid, well laid out, good design, nice font work. Everything feels tight. Great. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I get it. This is the context. And now it's just like font, just all over the place. And it gets a bit sloppy. In some ways, I think it's in the for the purpose of storytelling, but it's kind of falling apart. And now, and once again, what is nice, I do like this combination of motifs in a way. So it's like, okay, we clearly did like a whiteboarding exercise to try to find things, but it's putting into a context. Cool. Here's the problem. These look ugly. It's almost like if they're going to look ugly, you want it to look purposeful. Like this looks like almost lazy. Like I don't understand. Like why are these colors here? Right? Is that supposed to signify something? I'm confused now. Like I'm thinking about it. I shouldn't be thinking about it. I should be reading and seeing your amazing work. And then here, they cut off one of the other notes, and there's a drop shadow. Not good, right? Same thing with here. Like, so it's sloppy ultimately, right? Like, do you care when you do my design? Are you going to care about my design? But it's just a sticky note. No. It's everything. It's everything. It's the details. It's every single screen. That's how it works. And by the way, does anyone else want to say like what else is wrong with these 3 boxes? I'm gonna take a sip. I'm gonna see if anyone else like picks up like what I'm gonna say next, because I unfortunately sound like a bit of a broken record tonight. This has a bit of a delay on my stream, so I'm gonna let that question breathe. What is wrong with this screen? Or what else would I pick up on next as far as the problem on the screen? I'm going to come back to that one because I want to see if somebody can get it. Sneak peek at my... Man, this is a roller coaster. I was so excited about this case study at first, and it's just kind of fallen apart. It's got all the... It's almost there. It's got all the elements. It just needs to really commit and be solid. Okay, so nobody guessed it, or at least it didn't come through. What I was going to say is, like, we have introduced now an entirely different icon and an entirely different color, right? At least these 3 kind of feel like the same part of the same family. This one doesn't really feel like it belongs, but I don't know what you would do with a circle like in a pie chart anyways. But completely different and black and wholly different style than this, right? Like, look at this icon. One completely different iconography, no throughput, no single visual narrative or style that we have for that. And then we come down here, just completely different, just entirely changed. You know, we'll go back to my dear designer, Faye, and look at their iconography. Solid, consistent, same color, always in the same place. Like how powerful and impactful that every time they see the card, like, you're just expecting to see that, right? Like, she broke it a little bit here, and I'm not sure that's like successful compared to it, because it's almost like you want to see maybe it be there, but you know, that's when they decided to... It's almost like they broke the rule, but it was worth it. However, at very least, like, look at these icons. They all look like maybe this one's not quite, but no, look, that's the exact same pencil. So these are all the icons, same color, same family. Hold this cohesion through everything that they present, so you don't notice it. We come back to our example over here. It's just a cluster. Like, everything is completely different, right? And we had a format, right? We were introduced at the top of it for a format around how we were going to present the information. New boxes all the way across, tiny H1s, sentences for H2s, and then the content. And then we just throw that out the window, because now all of a sudden it's a box. We got this arrow introduced. There's no other arrows before that was going to bring us through. It wasn't introduced. And then there's just like this. Like, it can work, but you just see how, like, we come here and then we come here. Like take a look at this screen. Watch this. Take a look at this screen. And then we take a look at this screen. Right? And then we take a look at this screen. Those are 3 different websites. Those feel like entirely different websites. Like, they have nothing to do with each other. And if nothing else, as designers in our portfolio sites, that visual consistency is something we should absolutely strive for. 100%. Right? So, yeah, so that really starts to fall apart. And then, so now, again, like, we had established what the full screen thing was going to be as far as a introduction. It's like, you could almost say, like, without further ado, like, have something. And again, it's just thrown away. It's just thrown away. We've introduced, like, yet another layout, yet another kind of visual, yet another iconography, right? Like, we just can't help ourselves, right? I think you could make an argument those 3 are together, but again, it's not. And then the other sin that we've kind of committed is, much like any type of bullets, like, not having it actually wrap around the bullet, or having it wrap around the bullet, which is just visually unacceptable, right? I don't want to say, again, it's not as though if you'd made this mistake on your portfolio, on your case study, it alone is not going to cost you a job, but it's going to absolutely add to the fact that you might not, right? It's going to stack up. So a sneak peek, I don't know that it's like, there's almost like enough here that's like, I know you arrived at an amazing, I like this. This looks nicer. I know that I was effective. You have a fantastic stat. So I don't, this just feels unnecessary as far as like a sneak peek. It's if anything that I want to show my work like earlier and sooner up it. However, it just doesn't quite hit, right? Okay, now like we're going back to our new secondary design. We've introduced yet another one, right? So now we have like a top right, not in any box. Previously, the only time we used this was inside of a full width. Then we threw that away. Then we put it inside of a card. Okay, and now that's also gone. And now we've just put it in here. So there is no visual style. There's no design guide. There's no consistency with which we are conveying information. So the person reading this is all over the place. They have no idea how to read this. Like, what's next? What section am I in? Like, what part of this journey, what part of this story am I part of? And again, it's almost like individual. Like this screen taken on its own, like this isn't badly designed, right? Like this looks okay. Like we can appreciate this. It's just, and even same with this. However, like this look almost different enough to this. It's like, why is that? And then these screens again, right? Where is this the same site? There's so many iterations. Like we've really started to lose the plot, unfortunately. Yeah. So kind of belaboring the point. So okay, final app design. So this is again just a poor choice, right? So this is like the before and after, but why on earth this would not be larger, like large and charged, like beautiful, well laid out instructions of how it would go. Again, like the one thing I'm probably a lot in my conversation is going to be referring to this Faye one because how she did the before and after, like it's smaller and you get the joke. It's clearly worse. You know it's worse. You know it's going to be worse. Why does it need to take up 50% of it, right? I think this is a super clever way to do it. Look how big it is. Like this is it. Like this is the crescendo. This is the final note we're going to send everybody home happy with. And for some reason, we decided to have all of this empty space on the left side, as opposed to having like a big, bold, interesting image, like a before and after. And the fact that the after would come, it's a lot of bizarre choices here that are really undermining what honestly feels like a good case study and then solid design. So the final design, what we finally came up with, again, a new section header. And yeah, just the initial design from them or from the initial design where they started. So again, the problem here would be is like this, that's not a design. That's like an information architecture. That's like the content layout, right? So that in the excitement of placing down content and making sure we have enough content in a case study to try to properly relay the the journey that we took to arrive and show that we have like design thinking chops, sometimes we fall short. And in this case, like it just absolutely kind of fell apart. We get to the bottom here. We got these two. Why not? We're visuals. We're designers. We're trying to show stuff. Why not have some better UI designs? So yeah, just again, same type of thing, right? Just like all over the place. Looks like it's kind of a theme for this portfolio. Shame, like it's right there. You can see it, right? Like everybody, when you look at this stuff, it's like, all right, this person's got something. It's just their ability to maintain a consistent story and get that across was kind of lacking. Okay, so we're coming up on 2 hours. I can quickly do one more. I have a few more that I have. If anyone listening on any of the platforms wants to is brave enough to submit a portfolio, I'd be happy to have a look at it and provide whatever feedback I can. Otherwise, I do have another one that I can pull up for our review, and we can wrap it up there for the evening. Otherwise, any other kind of questions or anything you guys would like me to discuss or cover, like super happy to do so. Grab another drink while we wait for that. Oh, goodness me. Sorry, check in on some of the other socials in case I'm getting any comments. Let's see where that's going. Good, 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 good. We'll wrap up with one more. That's cool. Okay. Let's see. Looking at the comments, not seeing it, so not a problem. Let's go ahead and do one more. We're going to try to do this a bit quickly because, like I said, we're kind of coming up on the 2-hour mark. So let's see. I got a couple that I might be able to review. It's pretty good. How should I? It's kind of different too, which is kind of neat. It's kind of cool. Zen and the Art of UX. It's a book. Oh, I'm using. Okay. Oh, cool. It's got some like blogs type of thing. Yeah. So again, anyone who wants to submit a design, just go ahead and feel free to interrupt me anytime, and I'll hop over. But I'll wrap this one up. So let's take this one quick. So this is kind of like a throwback in a very refreshing way, where he's taken the time to produce an actual visual and a graphic behind. If you guys remember the good old days of Flash websites and the Wild West that it was for a while, the internet, when things were fun and kind of cool. So it's just immediately impactful, like it just smacks in your face, like it's exciting to see. So that I really like. I like that he took the time to do so. I am finding kind of the same issue with the iconography in the top right. It's not as bad as the previous example, but just how this sits compared to this title. And then I do wonder about the choice of having this be so bold, like uppercase, solid like that, but then not having the name uppercase. It kind of feels like everything in this section might benefit from that. And I'm curious too about like the having these three. Like the whole point is like I want you to contact me and get in touch. Good news, it does work, which is great. Let's hit some of these. I always just like to test if it works. Yeah, I think I found this one on the Reddit, and somebody's saying, roast me. So yeah, just it feels like this is. There's a part where it's almost like a letdown because like this is so cool. It's almost like I'd want them to like die on that sword, where it's like just own it. But I could appreciate why you might be a little bit hesitant based on like different size. Yeah, right, different sizes and such. So yeah, ultimately, I'd be. This feels much too small compared to this. It's likely just the uppercase. I understand the size of the blue. Like it feels like it'd be a little bit better as smaller, and I do wonder about the inclusion of these three icons here, as opposed to keeping it much cleaner and having that at the bottom. Because ultimately, like we want them to stay here, contact us, get us some more work. Full service product designer and design systems expert. Full service product designer and design systems expert. I want to be careful in my wording. Make sure I'm actually like coming at it from a good place. Full service product designer. The challenge is that I don't know what that means. Now that might represent a personal failing. Like perhaps that's just because I'm not up on my latest parlance of design. But do you mean that you can take it from concept to production? Does it mean that you are able to do you're an expert, you have expertise in user research as well as information architecture? Like what exactly is full service? If I'm looking for a UI UX designer, are you it? If I'm looking for a product research, am I looking for a product designer? For me, it's just a bit vague. It sounds good. It sounds powerful. You can sort of grok like what it means as far as I've done it all. I can do it all. So, so work with me, hire me. So I can appreciate that. I just wonder if it's conveying enough, like the actual value, because you would never hire half service. This doesn't necessarily make sense. Expert for me is always a challenging word. Um, it almost can come off as a bit. This isn't the right way to say it, but you'll excuse me if I flail around a bit with this. For me, it almost feels like it comes off a bit arrogant. I'm an expert in this, and it's like, do you know everything about it? Like you're absolutely, and you're going to consistently always know everything about it. And the other thing for me too is that it just places you in this bracket where it's like, all right, are you difficult to work with because you know everything? Are you willing to work with people who aren't experts? Are you expensive? Are you too expensive for us? Are you, do I have to drop $500,000 in some equity to get you to work with us? There's something about, that, oh, damn, there's a great quote. I don't want to blow this. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Okay. And that, you can almost say like hard work beats knowledge when knowledge doesn't work hard. I'll take a B player that is able to work on the team, work consistently, work hard, and people like to work with them, as opposed to a plus asshole every day of the week, right? And to be super clear, that I have no clue on the context of it. What I'm concerned about is the word expert. Sort of just it's put you up into this echelon, the self, and it's also the self-described, like you're calling yourself an expert. It's a weird place. So I myself prefer not to. Now, what would you put in split? Okay, so as opposed to design system expert, I'd prefer not to use such words. Basically, I would not call myself. Well, I'm not a good example because I'm sure this guy would like absolutely just run circles around me, honestly. But what might you use instead of expert? It's just like design not even enthusiast is sort of like it's just a hobby. Full service products with design system chops. You'd have to really wordsmith. You'd have to see if there's something better than expert that has less self-proclaimed greatness in it and more just I'm very good at what I do. It's almost like a word savant, because savant is almost like more charming. It's almost like it's self deprecating in a way. I'm a savant. You know what I mean? But I think there's like a wordplay within there. And again, that not it might just be a lot of personal hangups that have zero value. But I just words matter. It really does. And I think designers for a long time kind of got high on not this guy. This is a general. I'm gonna actually hold on. I didn't want to say this while like looking at a different site. I feel like designers got high on their own supply, right? Like they took what Steve Jobs said. Design is how the product works, and they're like, oh, good, design is the most important thing. If you're a business and you're a startup, the first person you hire is a developer, right? Design is a service. Design is in service to something. Now, what does that person have to build? What should he build? Like design has so much power and so much value in there for sure. But if you had to hire one person, you first hired a developer. And that really should tell you what we're about. We are a service. We are serving people, right? So we are not in an ivory tower, like casting designs down to the peons who are going to do it and listen to our will. You know what I mean? And what I worry about some of the verbiage that sometimes designers put in their portfolio, like it really puts themselves in the center as like the most valuable player on the team, as opposed to somebody who wants to come in and serve and help. And especially in the current market, again, teams of 20 down to teams of 5. You need somebody who's going to come in and grind it out and work with people. And, I think there's a big being egoless and willing to like participate that. So using those type of grandiose proclaiming yourself to be, masters and savants and experts and all those things, I think does a disservice to the value that we as designers can apply. Sorry, I want to be very sure that I was looking at my own dumb face page because I was not ascribing that to anyone I've talked to today. That's more of just like a general. I think it's helpful, in my opinion, to keep that service mentality in mind as we're crafting the narrative of why people should work with us, our value. So with that said, let's get back to here. Always learning, always evolving, always human-centered. See, much cooler sentence. I like that. and currently available for work. Also cool. Can I click this? Okay, it's almost like I'd prefer this to be, if it's going to be blue, given like that this huge thing is blue over here, I'd like that to be like clickable. There we go. So we got Max. All right, where did that go? Maybe better rephrase it as having an expertise in design. See, expertise. It's that even just that softens it, right? Because it's like I'm good at design systems. That's very nice. I'd almost want to, again, like it's just being an expert in something. It carries for me like some bad stuff, but that at very least is softer. I like that better. I'd still want it even a bit more softer, but at some point also it's going to come down to style. This person shows up, owns the room. It's like hire them immediately, right? So maybe that's just the MO and it works. So big screen, we come down here. I'd probably like to see a little less. I understand the point of like having this big and bold, but why not maybe like sneak this up a little bit? I do also wonder about the space. What bothers me is the spacing here for. I would just wonder if there'd be some way to bring in like there is this visual style like this. So we got neon, we got nightlife, we got like real life. There's it's cool. It is absolutely cool, right? And then we get down here and it's white boxes. And I just wonder, is there some way to bring in like a neon border? Is there a way to have like them sitting in signs? Like I don't want, it doesn't need to be cheesy, but I just wonder if there's like some subtle way to bring in a bit of that theming into the rest of it, because the top is just such like it's such an impactful, different view, right? And then it's like, oh, it's kind of the same. Like, let me get rid of those buttons. Like, so look at this, right? And look at that. Look at this. Look at that. Kind of like just two different sites, right? So I'd almost like to see it. So yeah, I'd like to shore that up a little bit. That's different. What bothers me here is the spacing, the amount of space between the title and the photo, and then the spacing between the title and the text, super big. And then again, the spacing between the text and the button, right? So like it's just different, right? Like why this feels like it should be much tighter to this, and it feels like there should be more space between this and the image and this bottom line and the button. So this feels like a very misplaced amount of space between the text, the title, and the text. The button, kind of choose your own adventure in the sense, or like as far as like how you want to play that, because this is how we've indicated buttons look like, and then we've introduced a second one. Now we are smart, intelligent people. We can have more than one button for sure. So that's more of a style choice. I'd be curious to see what it looked like if it was filled in. Maybe they made the right call that it's takes up too much detail. I will say too, like generally speaking, I really feel like these photos should be clickable. Okay, this is kind of bizarre because this one isn't. So just a small coding error here, but something that worthwhile to work on your portfolios. This image is not clickable. This image is clickable. So we just want that consistency. Yeah, so some cool work, other works and projects. I always like to see this type of stuff. I really do think that end of the day, like if you're getting down into it's a tie, showing some. I talk to a lot of mentees, and they used to be architects or interior designers or nurses. Like they have some sort of like interesting background, and I think there's parts that you can tease out of it. Like you can present it as part of a story of your uniqueness. That's where I think it's like interesting, because it people with lived experience tend to have better perspectives on a lot of scenarios. So you don't have, it's not the first thing you say, but very much even in the about section of those other parts, like there's ways that you can imbue other parts of yourself, like your previous history, your personality, that just helps to set you apart. So I kind of like that, he's included some other parts. So he's got like a guitar type of stuff, brands of Elevate. This is super cool. I mean, the classic thing to kind of do, some of these are quite recognizable. Blue Cross, Alliance, Norton, Autodesk. I do wonder that it's, and also if you look at that, like, we're talking about theming here. Like what's kind of cool is like we come up here, neon lights, highway, a bunch of signs. If you imagined a strip, right here, with all those logos, like it's kind of on theme, where it's like part of the street, and then we come down here and we see like all of these cool work that they've done with like of actual like cool companies. So I would almost maybe suggest that these would go up top. And it's a classic kind of trick. If you do have big brands that you have worked with, if you ever do work with an Uber or a McDonald's or like something recognizable, putting it somewhere up top is kind of like I'm vetted. Like I've worked with big companies before. It can help. So I'd almost suggest that goes up top of there. Let's check out a case study. So this is nice. It's nice that it's animated, decent size. You get a sense of the design itself. The first thing I see, so I do see that the first thing I see is the project, which is good. It's animated. It looks like a bit of a dated phone, just as far as like the top goes, or kind of like a Samsung, almost petty. This is kind of petty, but I'd almost suggest maybe updating it to a more recent one. The next thing I see though is this Figma logo. This Figma logo is big, right? So I'd kind of much prefer this to be a bit more subdued because it's like cool, but if you built this amazing thing in XD, I wouldn't really care, or Sketch. You know what I mean? Like it's not helpful in that it's not bad. It's not bad information to include. It does not set you apart in any reasonable way, because if you use Figma but I use Sketch, are you going to refuse to work with me, or could you figure out Sketch? The answer is yes. If you're here, you're smart, intelligent, you're capable. You could figure out Sketch. Not a big deal, right? So I don't feel that's really useful. And then otherwise, if you kind of squint your eyes, like none of this stands apart. Like it's really hard to read these individual parts, like duration, responsibilities, role, client. Like I have trouble kind of distinguishing that, be it the line height, be it the bolding, the black and white. I think there'd be something to do here. Not so sure I dig like the black. Like it's almost like I'd like to see. It's kind of like a time and commitment sort of thing, but it's almost like you want to see some sort of like similar treatment, be like another street view, another vista, something, just to have it, because this feels kind of flat. It feels kind of like a letdown, right? Because we arrived, it's like, whoa, cool. And then we go to the first prototype and it's like, oh, it's just kind of flat, right? So again, it's sort of been a theme here we've discussing, where it's like finding your visual footing and ensuring that flows through all of the website. So it's one cohesive thing. Product. Oof. It happens. I'm not sure where that was supposed to. It feels like this was kind of new, so we're going to give some grace. We can maybe go to a previous one. So this is sort of a spacing issue. So again, I'm finding this a bit hard to read. And I think goals is underneath of overview. I almost want it to be a little smaller, but the amount of space, like, so look where goals is situated. The amount of space that's above goals and below goals is the same, right? So I'd want it to be like a tight grouping with the content that it's actually supposed to represent. And then the highlights is sort of this, again, we have kind of a balance issue because this is much bigger than the other ones. So this does not feel like 1, 2, 3. It's 3 columns for sure. However, visually, this feels again as close to 90 as it does to this top one. And then it maybe should be centered, or finding some way to like balance those 3, or have, again, much like with when this is presented, like you could put a box behind them just to help sit them down, so you're not having this sort of balance issue going on it. We scroll down. We're now presented with this. So I find this slightly problematic, just in that like the rest of the elements so far have had rounded corners, and then we introduce a photo that doesn't. Did like tiny touches. It just like, again, visual theme that follows throughout everything that we do. A lot of what? No, that's fine. I think that looks nice. Like various screens, different screens. Yeah, I almost want to see this a bit more punchy. Like there was, just to like fill it up maybe. I don't know. I'll say this. I'll back off on that. I think that's kind of like that is a choice. You know what I mean? So we have these here. So I would say, like, look, we who knows how this was actually delivered, but I would say like the amount of space here on add a door to did you know? So that feels like it's a bit much. And then we have this need help button that is now, it's like this unfortunate coincidence where it's like shoving into the bottom, right? So why would we have a suboptimal screen on the portfolio site that we have complete control of? Each one of these should be just like bang, whiz, like, wow, like this is awesome. So, and even if this, like, well, this was what was actually delivered, that's not our problem. Like, this is the ultimate design. And like, given like better scenarios, like this is how we would present the work. This is what we did ultimately. Same thing here. Like, it looks like it's getting cut off. That sucks. And then there's like this cut corner. I don't know if you can really pick it up on the stream. Oh boy. Let's see if I can open a different screen instead. Bear with me. There. So if you can see, like, there's this corner missing. So firstly, like, it's cut off. That sucks. That's unfortunate. And then this is like cut off again, right? Like the corner. So it's like super tiny stuff, but like we're competing. We're competing against everybody else. So as much as possible as we can get this stuff like better and tighter. Yeah, okay. Because see that this need help thing is always in the bottom left. It looks like it floats, but now it's colliding with a button. But that's bad UX, right? So like it's not something we'd want to show. So we should control it. Okay, so the way we did it was like, hey, this is the design. These are some of the high levels. Again, kind of some legibility issues. Jump would go down there, but we start with an overview of the project, goals, highlights. I think is like what happened. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. And he even said like this is where like he's being a little bit cute with the numbers, but I can dig it, right? Because at the end of the day, sometimes like you just not get the numbers. Like, look, it's user approval rating. That's fantastic. Potential lead gen increase. Like, fun. Like, I'm almost happy to like go with it, right? And people probably aren't going to read it as much. But again, those are the type of things I'd prefer to have up over here, as opposed to like this is not. What do you think is more? We are designers. We control people's experience. We achieve goals. What is the goal? We want to be hired. For somebody looking to hire us, what's more impressive? Well, the client was this, my role was this, and this is what I did. These are my responsibilities, and I used Figma. Or there was a 90% approval rating, and there was a lead generation of this, and we calculated that we could increase revenue by this much. Like, bam, bam, bam. Do they care more that I was the UI designer compared to the UX designer, or that I delivered something that had those type of impacts? Right? Always like critically thinking about that, like user experience. Like, what are we trying to achieve? So what they've done is that they gave the quick summation of everything. Here's the output. So I don't mind that too much, in the sense that, okay, like here's the punchline. Now let me walk you through the joke. I'm down with that. I think the way I'd want to see a transition to make sure it's like, it's almost like I want, like, this is part of the overview, but for some reason, because of the sizing and everything, it kind of gets lost. It's almost like I'd call it the results, or like the output, or like the finale, like what we were able to achieve, and then it's like how we got there, right? So think about that as a narrative thing. So like the first part we introduce as where we arrived, and then for the second half we say how we got there as a through line for a story. Like, that to me makes more sense. Same things, just that's a lot of text, especially on a black and white kind of motif that we're going with here. Just a lot of text. The amount of spacing between this and that is bothersome. Again, everybody does these sticky note things. I don't know that it carries the same weight that it used to. Like, it just looks ugly. There's got to be a better way to present this type of ideas. But they do some discovery. It's almost like this is better. Like, this isn't great in that there's not a lot here. It's small enough that I can't read it, but big enough that I can kind of see it. And there's just not. How is this impressive? Does this show somebody like, wow, I want to work with you now? This kind of does. Like, this is sort of visually impressive because there's a lot of thought that went into this, right? And to be clear, like, there might be a lot of thought that went into here, but the way that it's presented, it feels very de minimis, right? As opposed to like, damn, okay, you did the work. That's kind of interesting. I still don't like why on earth is this cut off? Like, what's the point of this being cut off? Like, it looks like you're trying to stick to a certain height of it. Fine, but you control all of these visuals. Like, why is this cut off? That's sort of frustrating to me, right? And it's not the same screen, but like again, our person Faye, like when they presented it, like again, like they have the same thing, but look how look at all those screens. Like that's impressive. It's part of the journey. Early stage design. So they first did some scribbles. Hey, got some more scribbles. We love to see it, right? Low fidelity, but hey, these low fidelity sketches helped me get an idea of the interactions I wanted to include in the wireframe. So that was kind of cool. So they're walking through like what the impact of the sketch was. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. I was particularly, it's just, so this looks like an awesome one. This seems very cool, right? It's this, like, I would love to have this have a lot more punch because it's like, I was particularly excited to include scan to measure because inclusive comfort with tech. Through their research, through their sketching, through their flows, they identified something that was a particular interest. It's just like, when you think about the power of that, do you think it's likely that somebody might just scan, like pass through it, as opposed to having that like kind of punch moment? So make sure things you want noticed are noticeable, right? That Purple Cow by Seth Godin. If you want something to be remarked upon, make sure it's remarkable. Is how Seth Godin would say that. Because that's a shame. I love it. I think that this is cool to see this type of thing. We discovered this, and I was really excited we could do this. I like, man, pull it out. Let's go. So we're calling it, a challenge with it. Okay, so then we had teams focus on that. It's in the very sort of actually. Okay, so they started to do this design. They started to like present some stuff. A lot of text. You can have all this text because again, if you're walking through this as a presentation later, it works. But what's the high level of like what this is about? I don't mind it too much. Like again, it's just sort of like give me some sort of bullet points. So for the scanner, they can pull it, and then like you can discuss the rest of it in a detailed meeting. They do the prototyping, audition user testing, and outcome. Okay, and not bad. Then you're getting at the bottom, you have like the contact. So pretty solid. Like I said, it looks like a decent little project. You just want to see the story and the flow and that like narrative kind of go throughout. So everybody, that will wrap it up. I think we're good for the portfolio reviews. I hope everyone found it helpful. I take this very seriously because again, like as I mentioned to Abel, I want to thank you. Max, I want to thank you. It is so easy to critique things. It is so hard to build things. So I do not like to come at it from that negative standpoint, but I want to. I am just passionate about. There you go. I'm using the word passion that I said we shouldn't use on our portfolio site. It means a lot to me to try to provide some sort of value that helps people get to that next level, gives them that push that they need, and hopefully gets their job. So when I'm reviewing these sites, hopefully you feel that you feel that it's something I'm like trying to come at it from a helpful standpoint. And hopefully when you're hearing it, it's like, yes, like that, those are something that is actionable and that I can use. And I started with it and I'll end with the same thing where I am one person's opinion. In this world of portfolios, it's important to get a couple. Talk to a couple designers because you're going to hear push and pull from different folks. And what that allows you to do is that you can synthesize the parts of all those bits of feedback and all those pieces of advice and distill it down to something that makes sense for you because you are unique. Look, at the end of the day, like you are your own designer. You're going to bring your own value set and your own approaches to folks. So how you represent yourself should in some way beyond the baseline that we've discussed to make sure that your value is actually seen, it needs to represent you. So the best way to do is talk to a couple of mentors and then synthesize like the best of what you find it, bring it down, apply it to your site, and then like go forward and conquer. So, I hope it came through. My strategy on the line is I do not want to blow smoke. I don't want to lie and give you raw. but I want you to get better so you get jobs. So that's what this is about. If you found it useful and you'd like to connect, again, I'm not selling anything. I will not sell anything. I'm never going to charge for mentorship. It's something I find deeply meaningful, and feels like it's a way I can give back and be helpful. So on ADP list, you can sign up with me, grab any of my slots. We can set up a 30-minute session. Happy to review your portfolio in detail and provide any sort of value that I can. You want to connect with me? Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at Alexander Trevor. If I bring that screen up here, x.com/Alexander. Yeah, connect with me on here. You can find me on. Hey, look, there's us. We're live. You can find me on. You can find me on X. You can find me on Twitter. These type of videos on Just Enough Design on YouTube. Don't have a lot recently, but I'm going to be trying to put like more and more to try to be helpful to folks. Got a these. One of my favorite ones is like 3 books that help designers that are not commonly suggested for designers. So Getting Yes, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and The War of Art. But anyways, I digress. That's how to connect me if you want to have one of these sessions one-on-one. Find me on ADP list. Just search for Trevor Alexander. Would be my honor to do so. I really get a lot out of it, and I really thank you all so much. So unless there are any questions that come in here in the last bit, we'll wrap it up there for the evening. Hope you liked it. Love to hear from you. Any feedback, if some way I can improve it. And until next time, look, tough market out there. I think it's going to get better, right? And in the meantime, let's keep on producing better and better and better work until the market improves and we all have some fantastic jobs out there. So all the best. Cheers to your design careers. Good night, guys.